Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geostrategic podcast. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the podcast today. Why did Romania reject every other infantry fighting vehicle and choose the Lynx? This $4 billion decision could reshape NATO's eastern flank and send a powerful message across Europe. But what made the Lynx beat rivals like the CV90 and Redback? The answer may surprise you. In this video, we break down the real reasons behind Romania's choice and what it means next. Before we begin, hit like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed defense and geopolitics content. And now I want to hear from you. Did Romania make the right choice, or was there a better option? Drop your opinion in the comments below. Strong takes welcome.
Yeah, to really kind of set the stage for you here, looking at the latest news from April 29th, Romania is officially moving to completely overhaul its mechanized infantry.
Right.
Because right now they're heavily relying on the MLI-84. And to understand why this modernization is so urgent, you have to picture what Romanian troops are actually driving today.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the MLI-84 is, well, it's basically a modified 1980s Soviet tracked vehicle.
Wow, from the 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's cramped. The armor is incredibly thin by modern standards. The systems are largely analog. And, you know, it was just never designed to survive the kind of drone-heavy warfare we're seeing right now.
Right, which makes total sense. So they obviously needed a replacement. They needed a true modern infantry fighting vehicle.
Yep.
Which, for those listening, is essentially a heavily armored battle taxi, right? Like, it doesn't just drop troops into the combat zone. It actually stays there to fight alongside them.
Exactly, providing that heavy fire support.
And the platform they've chosen to carry their military into the future is Rheinmetall's Lynx KF-41. So our goal today is to give you a really rapid, precise breakdown of the geostrategic implications of this move.
Absolutely.
So let's unpack this decision, because we posed the question right at the top, like, why did Romania reject the competition?
Right.
And to really grasp the weight of this $4 billion decision, you have to look at exactly who lost out here.
Oh, it was a massive field.
It really was. The field of contenders for this huge 298 vehicle order was incredibly crowded. You had major established players bringing their absolute best platforms. Sweden's BAE Systems Hägglunds was pitching the CV90. South Korea's Hanwha was offering the AS-21 Redback. And General Dynamics was pushing the Ascod. Like, these are incredible machines. The CV90 is already the workhorse of Europe. It's proven, it's reliable.
And you can't forget the Redback either.
Right.
South Korea's been so aggressive with exporting that platform. I mean, it features next-generation hydropneumatic suspension, active protection systems. It's just a phenomenal piece of engineering.
Exactly. So here's my question for you. If you're a military planner, right, and you are tasked with upgrading your forces from ancient analog Soviet tech, why not just go with the most widely used off-the-shelf option? Like, why take a risk on a newer platform like the Lynx? Why bypass the massive established footprint of the CV90?
Well, that right there is the core of this entire situation. What you have to realize is that modern defense procurement, at this scale at least, it's rarely just a beauty contest of tactical specifications.
Okay.
I mean, the hardware absolutely matters. The Lynx is a formidable machine. If you look at the latest updates, specifically the configuration being prepped for Ukraine, it features what's known as a two-man lance turret.
Right, wait, let's break that down for a second, because two-man lance turret sounds like a lot of technical jargon.
Sure.
What does that actually give the soldiers sitting inside the vehicle?
So think of it as transitioning from a mechanical typewriter to a high-end gaming computer.
Okay, wow.
The lance turret isn't just a big gun mounted on top. It's a fully digitized nerve center. The two crew members are surrounded by advanced optics and sensors. It allows them to track multiple targets at the same time, automatically calculate ballistics, and seamlessly share target data with drones and other allied vehicles.
That's insane.
It really provides overwhelming situational awareness. But, and here's the critical point, the Romanian Defense Ministry wasn't just evaluating armor thickness or sensor suites.
Right.
They were evaluating supply chain control. The real reason Lynx won out over the CV90 and the Redback is because Rheinmetall offered a tangible pathway to domestic sovereignty.
Okay. That brings us to the how of all this. Because the reason the Lynx won isn't just about the armor itself, it's about where that armor is actually going to be built.
Exactly.
Because the last info makes it abundantly clear that Romania fundamentally wants to build these vehicles locally to protect their own supply chain.
Yep.
It's almost like a a franchising model. Like if you want to open a massive fast food chain in a new country, you don't just buy a million frozen burgers and ship them over.
No, you buy the factory.
Right. You buy the factory that makes the burgers, you buy the recipe, the training manuals, the local supply network.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it, actually. And Rheinmetall strategically laid the groundwork for this franchise approach well in advance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, back in 2024, they purchased a majority stake in a local Romanian military vehicle maker called Automechanica Medii.
Wait, they bought that before the deal?
Yep. It wasn't a coincidence. It was the opening move on the chessboard. The plan now is to produce the vast majority of these new vehicles. So 232 out of the total 298 units directly at that facility in Medii.
Okay, but I have to push back on the logic of this for a second.
Go ahead.
Because you're hitting on something that honestly sounds like a massive logistical nightmare. Building a factory from scratch or even retooling an old one is incredibly slow.
It is.
You have to train local welders to work with advanced composite armor. You have to establish local supply chains for microchips, integrate German engineering standards into a Romanian workforce.
Right.
If I'm a defense minister and I need a capability quickly to deter a threat, choosing a 5 to 10 year industrial rollout seems incredibly risky compared to just, taking delivery of finished tanks directly from Germany.
Well, you're bringing up the exact reason why some traditional military analysts initially question these types of deals.
Yeah.
Setting up domestic production is a massive headache. It requires a huge upfront investment of time and capital. But Romania looked at the hard lessons emerging from modern conflicts, particularly the war in Ukraine, and realized a terrifying truth about wartime logistics.
Which is?
In a peacetime corporate environment, you prioritize efficiency and speed. But in a wartime scenario, relying on foreign maintenance, foreign assembly, and foreign parts is a critical, potentially fatal vulnerability.
Oh, because if a conflict breaks out, logistics chains just freeze.
Exactly. What happens if borders close? What happens if your supplier's government faces domestic political pressure and decides to halt arms exports?
Right, or just runs out of stock themselves.
Precisely. Or, more practically, what happens when a vehicle takes a hit on the battlefield? A highly advanced $10 million combat vehicle is utterly useless to you if its transmission breaks, and the only mechanics who know how to fix it are sitting hundreds of miles away in Germany.
Wow. So it's really about making sure that if things go wrong, you have the wrenches, the spare tracks, the microchips, and the engineers physically inside your own borders to keep the machines running.
That's exactly it. The acquisition program kicks off in July 2025, and they're targeting completion by 2030.
Okay.
During that window, the contract mandates a massive technology transfer. They aren't just handing over an instruction manual. German engineers will basically be teaching the Romanian defense sector how to execute the assembly, integration, complex testing, and lifecycle maintenance of these vehicles.
That's a huge shift.
It is. Once that initial batch is done, Romania's defense industry essentially takes the keys. By forcing this technology transfer, Romania is prioritizing long-term strategic autonomy over the short-term convenience of an off-the-shelf purchase.
Let's follow the money here, though,
Yeah.
because everything you just described, setting up domestic production lines, retraining an entire workforce, doing a massive international tech transfer, is unfathomably expensive.
Very expensive.
We're talking about an acquisition worth roughly $4 billion. For a country of Romania's economic size, how do you afford that massive military upgrade while simultaneously building out local infrastructure?
Well, to understand the funding, you have to zoom out and look at the broader European Union.
Yeah.
The latest filings submitted to the Romanian parliament on April 29th reveal a really fascinating geopolitical shift. This acquisition is largely being funded by the EU itself.
Really?
Yeah, specifically through a mechanism called Security Action for Europe, or SAFE loans. The EU is extending these low-cost loans to member states to rapidly modernize their militaries.
Okay, so how much does Romania actually get from that?
Romania currently has access to a staggering 16.7 billion euros through the SAFE mechanism.
16.7 billion euros. That is a transformative amount of capital.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
To give you some perspective, that makes Romania the second largest beneficiary of this entire EU program.
Who's first?
They're sitting right behind Poland, who was allocated roughly 44 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. These SAFE loans will specifically cover those 232 Lynx vehicles being built domestically in Medii.
Got it. And what about the other 66?
The remaining 66 units will be covered through alternative state funding. And it's critical to note, Romania isn't just buying tanks with this money. They're utilizing that 16.7 billion to finance a comprehensive modernization of their armed forces.
So, like, everything.
Everything. New helicopters, wheeled armored vehicles, advanced air defense systems, naval vessels, drones, and stockpiles of ammunition.
Okay, but looking at this critically, does relying so heavily on EU loans for core defense give Brussels too much leverage over Romania's sovereign military strategy?
It's a fair question.
Like, if the EU is essentially holding the purse strings for your military modernization, do they also get to dictate your strategic focus, or maybe how and where you deploy these forces?
I mean, it's a valid concern regarding the balance of power, but you have to look at the motivation behind the SAFE mechanism. The EU isn't doing this to micromanage Romanian troop movements. The SAFE mechanism is fundamentally a geopolitical tool designed by the EU to secure its own survival.
Ah, I see.
Brussels is looking at the map and realizing that the eastern borders of the EU, places like Poland and Romania, are the shield for the rest of the continent.
Right, they're the front line.
Exactly. By providing these massive low-cost loans to frontline states, the EU is effectively turning financial capital into physical regional security.
Yeah.
Brussels doesn't want control. They want a buffer. They are bankrolling the fortification of their own eastern perimeter.
And when you look at that perimeter, you start to see a very deliberate pattern forming, because this isn't just an isolated Romanian decision. It's a specific puzzle piece locking into NATO's eastern wall.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about this, like standardizing an operating system across a massive tech company.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right, because if Romania, Hungary, and Ukraine are all running on Lynx OS, you don't just share charging cables. You share software updates, you share mechanics, you share massive ammunition stockpiles.
Yes.
Just imagine the absolute battlefield advantage if you have multiple neighboring militaries, all using, maintaining, and producing the exact same combat vehicle. If a Romanian Lynx breaks down near the Hungarian border, a Hungarian mechanic already knows exactly how to fix it.
That is exactly what's happening, and the strategic value of it cannot be overstated.
Yeah.
We are seeing the rapid formation of what defense analysts are calling a Lynx block.
A Lynx block?
Yeah. Romania is not the first country to make this specific move on NATO's eastern flank. Hungary was actually the first buyer back in 2020.
Oh, wow, 2020.
Yeah, they ordered 218 units. And following that exact same localized production model we just discussed, Rheinmetall opened a brand new factory in Zalaegerszeg, Hungary, back in August 2023.
So Hungary has a 3-year head start on building these things right next door.
Yes. But the ecosystem expands even further. The latest information confirms that in January 2026, Germany stepped in to bankroll the delivery of 5 Lynx vehicles directly to Ukraine.
Wait, specifically equipped with that advanced 2-man Lance turret we talked about earlier?
The exact same configuration. But the most important part of that announcement wasn't just the delivery of 5 vehicles. It was the stated long-term goal.
Which is?
Rheinmetall intends to manufacture these tracked vehicles directly inside Ukraine as well.
So you have factories in Hungary, upcoming factories in Romania, and planned factories in Ukraine.
Exactly. And if we look just slightly beyond the immediate eastern flank, Italy is entering the chat as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they just obtained their first 4 Lynx vehicles in January 2026. But that is just the tip of the spear for a massive planned 1,050 unit order.
1,000 units.
Over 1,000. And the Italian defense giant Leonardo is joining forces with Rheinmetall to make it happen.
Over 1,000 units in Italy alone. So zoom out and look at the map for a second. We have Italy, Hungary, Romania, and eventually Ukraine, all operating on the exact same hardware architecture.
What we are witnessing is a masterclass in industrial geopolitics. We're seeing the creation of a deeply interconnected defense industrial base that spans from the Baltics straight down through the Black Sea and reaches deep into southern Europe.
That's incredible.
The cross-border compatibility of this Lynx block is immense. It ensures easier standardized repairs across thousands of miles of territory. It guarantees shared supply chains for crucial components and ammunition. Ultimately, it weaves these individual nations into a highly unified, logistically resilient deterrent against any Eastern aggression.
So, bringing this all together, what does this actually mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of European geopolitics? We started this deep dive by asking why Romania rejected the proven off-the-shelf options like the CV90.
Right.
And the answer is that they realized they weren't just buying a vehicle, they were buying a seat at the table of a unified cross-border industrial ecosystem. They willingly traded the immediate speed of an off-the-shelf purchase for the long-term security of sovereign production and technological independence.
and by taking on the immense challenge of domestic production, funded heavily by the EU, of course. They are actively reshaping the logistical realities of NATO's eastern edge. They are transforming from a consumer of security to a producer of it.
Which leaves you with a final thought to mull over. With Poland and Romania securing massive EU defense loans and factories springing up in Hungary, Romania, and soon Ukraine, are we seeing the center of gravity for European defense manufacturing permanently shift from the west to the east? Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen and watch our deep dive today.
Yes, thanks for tuning in.
We highly encourage you to check out the other fantastic deep dives in our network to keep exploring these massive global shifts. Stay curious, and we will catch you next time.